1.
Boom! And welcome to Did You Know? Ooh.
Wrong button. I'm frazzled here.
A little off on that Run DMC.
I was reading something and everything came on at once.
Anyways, that's the world famous Andy Shaver. I'm Jeff Stanfield. This is brought to you by Mallard Bay. Did you know?
That's right.
Can I go first today?
Yeah.
Okay.
Please do.
Did you know? Now, I already told you what I'm going to talk about, one of the things, so I was going to ask you what it was. Do you know what the story is about the Gettysburg battle and what it was actually about?
Yes, Pat, I do know what the Gettysburg was about. It was about the North and the South fighting in a war between themselves.
Okay, smartass.
And it all had to do with slavery, property taxes.
Okay, let's backtrack.
Okay.
Do you know what one of the significant factors that caused this conflict to happen, they think? Something weird. Not just the North versus South.
I would say that both factions of soldiers were marching, and this was a place that they all met up, and this is how it happened.
Okay. Wrong.
Okay.
Here we go. One of the theories behind this, and it's a theory, it happened in 1863. The Confederacy's last stab at a major offensive in a northern state, the 3 brutal days of fighting of July of 63 around the town of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, marked the bloodiest battle of the American Civil War. Do you know how many people died there?
60,000.
Close, 50,000. Situated at the junction of 10 roads at a time when most places were served by 1 or 2, only about 30 miles from 2 key Union supply routes, it shouldn't be surprising that Union and Confederate troops ran into each other there. What is surprising, however, is that many historians believe the battle played out the way it did because of a strong Confederate desire for new shoes.
Oh.
Leading up to the battle
shoe plan, I guess, close.
Leading up to the Battle of June 22nd, 1863, Confederate Major General Jubal Early had crossed the Potomac River at Shepherdstown, West Virginia, moving on to Chambersburg, Pennsylvania on June 25th. Early received instructions from Lieutenant Governor Richard Ewell to move east through Gettysburg to York, Pennsylvania. There he was to cut off a major rail line between Harrisburg and Baltimore and then continue west to Wrightsville to destroy a significant bridge over the Susquehanna River that connected the region to Philadelphia. Early traveled with 15 empty supply wagons with hopes of refitting his division, and on June 26, 1863, his command reached Gettysburg, where small numbers of Union troops were encamped. Sending a brigade under the command of Brigadier General John Gordon and a battalion of cavalry led by Colonel E.V. White to root out the enemy, which they did, Early himself entered the town on the same day. Although Early had hoped to resupply his division, Gettysburg authorities were insistent that they had few available supplies. Unimpressed, Early conducted a search, but was only able to find a very small quantity of commissary supplies and about 2,000 rations. Early noted there was no apparent warehouses called railroad buildings, and having a date to keep with a rail line and a bridge, he left town early the next day. Early reported that he had insufficient time to determine the certainty that there was no hidden supplies, but in his opinion, if there were any, they were limited. 2 days later, in the town of York, Early, still seeking supplies, was able to requisition demand from the town between 1,200 and 1,500 pairs of shoes, as well as socks, hats, rations, and more than $28,000. Early and his troops also successfully took control of the railroad at York, burned the Columbia Bridge at Wrightsville, and proceeded to destroy other depots and bridges in the area. Although he continued pursuit for additional supplies bore little fruit. On June 29th, Early was ordered by General Robert E. Lee, along with the rest of the Army of Northern Virginia, about 75,000 troops, to join forces around Gettysburg. Major General Henry Heath led one of the divisions, and like all of Lee's troops, was under specific orders to wait for the arrival of the full force before engaging any fighting. Heath was among the first to arrive at Gettysburg, perhaps because they were sorely in need of them. A rumor had been circulating among Lee's forces that there was a stockpile of shoes in town. And shortly after arriving, Heth, in fact, ordered Brigadier General Johnston Pettigrew to search the town for army supplies, shoes specifically, and return the same day. Pettigrew ran into Union troops, and despite Lee's orders, Heath ended up starting a small skirmish. And that is how.
All I had to do with new shoes.
They think. It's not control, but that is the deal. So that was a very interesting fact about it. Now, I'm going to ask you a gentleman's name.
Okay.
Do you know who Henry Tandy is?
No.
Henry Tandy was born at the Angel Hotel, Regent Street, Learnington, Warwickshire, the son of a former soldier whose wife had died early in their child's life. He attended St. Peter's Primary School in Augusta Place, So basically, this guy grew up in the United Kingdom. Now, the reason you don't know his name, because if he would have done what he could have done, we would have never known who he was. And we wouldn't have never known the man that he had a chance to kill.
Who do you have a chance to kill?
Tandy allegedly encountered Adolf Hitler at the French village of Marcon on September 28th, 1918, while Tandy was serving with the 5th Duke of Wellington's regiment. That day, Tandy took part in a battle of which he would be awarded the VC for bravery. As the battle neared its end, a wounded German soldier wandered into Tandy's line of fire, and he chose not to shoot. The German soldier saw him lower his rifle and nodded his thanks before wandering off. The reports are that was Adolf Hitler in World War I. Mm-hmm. That would have changed the whole course of history.
Well, Hitler was blown up, I think. If I'm remembering right, and I have not done any research to this, I think he was a part of like a bombing or something. And I think he was pretty close to death in World War One.
And this guy had a chance to finish him off. If you watch that show, is it 1918?
I don't know. I haven't seen that.
Or 1911, whatever it is. It's a World War I movie. It's a very, very good movie. A good movie. It's in the trenches and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And it shows a strung out Adolf Hitler in the show, portrays who you think is Hitler, and I'm sure that's who it is.
Yeah, he was strung out during his reign.
Yes, well, he was strung out in this time too, but he'd been brutalized. You could tell a few times.
Right.
Okay, my last little part here.
He was a meth addict. But so was JFK.
Top 10 similarities between Abe Lincoln and Jefferson Davis. Both were born in Kentucky, less than 100 miles and 1 year apart. They remained the only presidents born in Kentucky. Both served during the Black Hawk War of 1832. Both suffered from depression. Both lost sons before and during their presidencies. Both served in the U.S. Congress. Neither regarded African Americans as equal to whites. Neither asked to be nominated as a president. Neither man chose as vice president. Both condemned John Brown's raid. Both were political moderates. Both had worn a dress as a disguise. That's the difference between Jefferson Davis and Abraham Lincoln, the Confederate president, and the president of the United States of America. And that's my Did You Knows.
There you go. Okay, so I'm going to piggyback off of that just a little bit. It's interesting how things work out. This is a story of Coca-Cola.
Okay. The Gebhardts.
Huh?
Gebhardt family.
No.
Okay.
Not even close. John Pemberton is the guy that originally invented Coca-Cola.
Okay.
So first, do you know how many Coca-Colas are sold per day worldwide?
Not as many as probably used to be. A billion. I don't know.
1.9 billion per day.
Wow. I knew it was a lot.
So John Pemberton,
imagine making just 1 cent off that.
He was a Civil War soldier. Pemberton served as lieutenant colonel in the Confederate Army. He sustained a severe saber wound in April 1865 during the Battle of Columbus, which led to chronic pain and a subsequent addiction to morphine. He wanted to find a better alternative to morphine. So Pemberton began. So there was a wine back in the day. It was called. Let me scroll down. Come on, where you at? Where you at? Mariana. I think. Why is it not? Why can't I find it? Yeah, Vin Marani. Why can't I pronounce that word?
I don't have a clue.
So, he basically copied it. So, and I still can't pronounce that word. Mariani was a famous cola-infused red wine, and the Pope loved it, the Queen loved it, Edison loved it. So Pemberton tried to copy it, basically. He called his French wine cola, and it was sold in drugstores. That was the initial thought for Coca-Cola, is it could cure depression, headaches, and opiate addictions. It was essentially cocaine and booze in a bottle. So it would cure a lot of shit.
Or it'll make you feel better, at least.
It sold like crazy. And then something happens in the United States called Prohibition, which made alcohol illegal. So they kept the cocaine in the Coca-Cola, but they had to cut out the alcohol. So he swapped the wine for sugar water. This created a carbonated temperance drink. He called it Coca-Cola and sold it as a fountain drink in pharmacies. So he never really got to see it take off. He was in bad health. So what they ended up doing, he started selling off stocks and shares and everything else. And finally, he sold the formula to a man named Asa Candler for $2,300. And Candler is the one that turns Coca-Cola into the empire that it is today.
He's doing a good job of it.
Nobody knew what Coca-Cola was, so Candler did something pretty genius. He went to anybody that would let him, and he would paint Coca-Cola ads on their barns.
Not to change your stuff, because you knew who one of the most famous one of those guys was? Les Cuba, the
really?
wildlife artist. That's what he did for a living.
He gave out free samples and sent coupons to top customers in town. By 1895, Coca-Cola was in every U.S. state, but cocaine got a stigma.
Yeah.
So people started viewing cocaine as, something bad. So they had to figure out a way to take the cocaine out of Coca-Cola. So they started using decoconized coca leaves, same flavor and no stigma because there was no cane in it. The extract became part of Coca-Cola's secret formula, merchandise number 5. One problem here was there were only 2 companies that were allowed to import coca leaves legally into the United States. One of them was Maywood Chemical Works. Coca-Cola became their only customer, and they had an instant monopoly on coca-flavored drinks. During World War II, Coca-Cola made its biggest move. They promised to deliver Coke to every U.S. soldier for 5 cents. They built bottling plants, and millions were sent overseas. Soldiers returned and continued to buy the brand once they got back.
So before
back to the United
World War
States.
II, it wasn't the dominant brand that was.
Really, soda drinks in general weren't. I mean, it's kind of a new invention.
Okay.
Unfortunately, Coca-Cola wanted to be this worldwide brand, which they are today. And when you're in a world war with a good side and a bad side, and you're an American company, you can't sell your product to the enemy. So what do?
Make Fanta.
So Fanta that was sold just for Germany.
I just knew this the other day. I heard this.
It was a Nazi era invention, made by the same bottle and made by the same company, but there's a lot of people that we can sell to. So let's make a different drink. And it was Fanta.
So the Germans, we replaced the Germans with the Democrats because they drink lots of Fanta.
I guess. So Fanta was made to sell to the Axis power. After the war, Coca-Cola needed more caffeine. So in 1904, a small chemical company by the name of Monsanto steps in. They extracted caffeine from waste tea leaves, and Coke became Monsanto's first major client. Eventually, this wasn't good enough. Coke needed a synthetic caffeine, cheap and scalable. Monsanto finds a way, and they start making caffeine from coal tar used from roads. They figure out a way to synthesize coal tar, extract the caffeine, and then...
So is it real? Is it the same caffeine that you're getting from plants?
No, it's from coal tar. It's synthetic.
I understand that. So it's not real caffeine then. It's a man-made caffeine.
It's a man-made caffeine.
Okay, so that's different. That's what I was... So with the Zens that you take, that's not...
It's nicotine.
Nicotine.
But,
okay, go ahead.
So they were getting everything. They were getting the caffeine from tea leaves, but that wasn't sustainable because they couldn't...
Process enough of them?
Yeah, they couldn't keep up with the demand. So they had to figure out a way to keep up with the demand of Coca-Cola. So they take coal tar and they pull the caffeine out of it. So yeah, I don't know if you're still drinking it that way. Maybe you are, maybe you're not. I don't know. Coke's bad for you. So today, Coke sells 1.9 billion drinks per day. They are worth over $87 billion, and they operate in 200 plus companies. And it all started with a stolen formula from Vin Marina. And the guy that initially invented it died broke, and he was just an addict. Do you also know that Coca-Cola is the second most, how do I frame this, known word worldwide?
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
You know what the first word is?
I'm going to say Jesus.
Okay.
Well, there you go.
It's okay. Everybody knows what okay means worldwide, and everybody knows what Coca-Cola means
I know
worldwide.
it's the number one brand. When you see it, that logo, you know what it is. Everywhere, it don't matter where you go, the Sub-Saharan, you can go to the Amazon, they know that logo.
Right.
You know, like Nike's logo is there, Apple's logo, but Coca-Cola's logo is the most famous. But yeah, the Les Cuba, the famous artist, waterfowl, that's what he
painted them everywhere.
If you look in our house, in our living room, we've got that one of the guy poting the Coca-Cola deal, and the geese are flying over, and that was one he was painted of himself, basically. But that's what he did. He painted Coca-Cola
signs
on barns and stuff all over the country, and then did wildlife art at nighttime.
I wonder if there's probably not any of those still around.
What?
Like an original Coca-Cola barn where that was painted.
No, because it's
back a long time ago.
One of the buildings in Knox City used to have one on the side. The old porcelain round buttons that say Coca-Cola on them. We had one in our yard that got stolen 30 years ago, and I know who stole it, and he's dead now. But he stole the thing, and he didn't even have to steal, but he stole a lot of shit around town. He would and in the country and stuff. But that thing right there alone today probably would be worth $10,000-$15,000 because it was an original from the World War II. Because I was fixing to have a guy put a pole in it. And we were going to weld it and put it in the yard.
Put it in the yard. Should have done it.
And went out there to look for it. It was gone.
Bad deal.
And I paid like $500 for it in the mid-90s.
Right. So anyway, that's the story of Coca-Cola.
That's an interesting story. One of the bottling companies, Wichita Falls had a bottling company. And I remember as a kid, you'd go by there and you'd see the bottles as going in the bottles.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure Abilene has one. Coca-Cola in a bottle tastes better than it does in plastic.
Right.
Is the best. Kind of like Bar Coke. Bar Coke tastes really good. Mm-hmm. You know, the little old drinks, they got the ice in it, and old-fashioned old stop-by bars that we don't have around no more.
Well, there's a place in New York that still makes them that way.
No, they do them with I'm not talking about the syrup. I'm talking about just like fountain bar Coke at a bar. Not Coke at like if you go to Buffalo Wild Wings, but if you go to some dive bar, and they used to have the gun that had the all the different stuff in it, the Coca-Cola coming out of it, like Little Brother's Coca-Cola would be better than anybody else's Coke.
Off topic, but I found a new summer drink. It is tonic water and espresso.
Ugh. That sounds absolutely terrible.
I love tonic water. I don't want West Nile, or I don't want diphtheria.
Malaria.
Oh, I don't want that, definitely.
I don't think it has quinine in it anymore.
It does.
I think they took it out.
No, it's got quinine in it. You got to look on the bottle and make sure it does, but yeah, it's got quinine in it. And I love espresso. So put the two together. I've seen some recipes where you put a little shot of like vanilla or orange syrup in there, and very good summertime drink.
It does not sound good.
I'm gonna try it. It might be like,
hold on.
It might be like
so
my
you
Negroni.
haven't even had it?
No.
Oh, I found my new favorite summertime drink.
No,
I think you'd drink it.
I said I found a new summertime drink. I don't know if it's my favorite or not.
Because you didn't like the Negroni.
Was not a fan of the Negroni, and I don't drink much anymore. So this can be my new drink. Maybe it'll replace. I don't know. It might be my afternoon drink for a while.
Well, I do want to do a thing right now. I want to thank the Wingarts. They sent us a nice bottle of bourbon here.
They did.
Devil's Due bourbon.
Yeah.
And appreciate you very much for sending that to us.
Devil's Due, straight bourbon whiskey.
And that is a local whiskey.
From where?
I think New Jersey, I believe.
Oh, really?
I believe so.
Let me look on the bottle here.
I think it was New Jersey, somewhere in the Northeast. I thought it was New Jersey.
West Virginia.
West Virginia.
When you open a bottle of Devil's Due, you'll get a taste of almost heaven made in West Virginia. Devil's Due bourbon is individually selected specifically for body smoothness and character. Right there in the Appalachian Mountains.
Check out Devil's Due bourbon. You know,
yes, I hadn't even cracked it
of
yet.
all the,
like I said, I don't drink much anymore. Now that I've
it will get drink. It'll get drink up here.
100%.
There's no doubt because we have a lot of bourbon drinkers that come through this little studio here. You know, it's crazy. There's a lot of states that I've been to a lot of places, but I've only been to West Virginia like through it twice. And it's a beautiful state, and I've always wanted to go through the Appalachian Trail, not walk the damn thing, but
it's very
drive
dangerous.
through. But that's what everybody says.
Very, very dangerous.
And then when Zach worked in the oil field on a company up there, and they went up there to work, and they told the guys, do not go to the local bars at night.
Well, and our buddy that works for McDonald's, he's kind of got that Ohio, West Virginia, Pennsylvania corridor, and they told him, like, stick to the highways. Do not take a back road to go to a restaurant.
What do you think I'd want to do if I was there?
Don't do it.
I know, but that's what I want to see the back roads. I want to see.
And I've seen it like on TikTok and everything. There's a whole like subsection of TikTok that is just like creepy shit that goes on in the backwoods of the Appalachian Mountains.
There's a really good series, and I wish I could think of the damn name of it. I watched it, and I changed when we did all our remodeling last year. I need to go back to it. And it was about a family that lived on a mountain, and they were a bunch of hillbillies, and they would go to town and steal shit. But the people in town were afraid to go up there
to get their stuff
because they were scared to death of them. and they were fighting the power companies wanting to come in and do something, and they were fighting them, and it was a really good series.
Don't do it.
But I wish I could think of the damn name of it. And they made some kind of wine that was moonshine, and that was their thing. Everybody wanted the honey break wine or whatever the hell they called it. It was named after their name though.
Right.
But it was a good series. But I've never been really to West Virginia. I know it's a beautiful state though.
Don't do it.
It's a beautiful state. Well, I'm going to have to go through there one day and see it.
Stick to the highways.
Well,
Don't
I
go
would-
chasing waterfalls.
Yep. All right. Thank y'all for listening to us. God bless y'all. Have a wonderful week. And that is our Did You Know, brought to you by Mallard Bay.
Bye-bye.